Counter-Strike 2 is finally officially released, and I think it is safe to say that while it is easily the best looking Counter-Strike game of all time, it does seem to have a few downsides. Many people are quick to point out that it seems to have a distinct lack of content. Maps and game modes seem to be the biggest complaints that I've heard from people, but there is more than meets the eye when it comes to these complaints. Firstly, it's important to remember that Counter-Strike 2 is a brand new game made from scratch on a completely different game engine. And for anyone who has never made a game before, I can tell you from experience that even with a lot of assets that they can simply reuse, it still takes a lot of time to do. With that being said, many people think that Counter-Strike 2 should have a lot more maps in it than it currently does. If we compare it to what we had available in Counter-Strike Global Offensive before it was killed, CSGO had 13 maps available to play in the competitive mode, and Counter-Strike 2 only has 9 of those maps. Obviously, Valve could have just brought forward every single map, but they chose 9 specific maps for players to enjoy, while they quietly removed 4. Many people may not think this is a big deal. It does seem odd that we as a community have somehow lost cash, train, agency, which people only queue for competitive hostage maps will miss dearly. And even weirder is the fact that we've lost access to the recently acquired by Valve Tuscan. In casual, we even lost access to Assault and Militia in the hostage rescue playlist, which leaves us with literally 2 maps to play, Office and Italy. And while I do love those maps, there's only so many times a casual player is going to tolerate playing the same map, unless it's Dust 2 or Mirage for some reason. But when we compare both of these versions of Counter-Strike to how CSGO was when it first released, we only had 8 maps that we could play in a competitive game, and once again, only 2 hostage maps. Those maps were also Italy and Office weirdly. We also at the time had Aztec and Dust as playable competitive maps, so you can probably tell that the world was a much better place back then. You may also have noticed on the map selection screen here that Vertigo was an option. That's purely because the version of Counter-Strike Global Offensive that I'm playing here is from 140 days after launch, and it only took Valve 40 days to release Vertigo as the first added map to CSGO. That means that we've already seen that Valve have a history of introducing features and maps much earlier than people may expect. In that same update that Valve introduced Vertigo in, it's also the same update that CSGO went from competitive being a join-in-progress kind of game mode like how casual is now, to the queued match system that we've actually been playing for years. Other features that people don't realize CSGO actually didn't launch with include things like Deathmatch or even GoTV. GoTV took them 64 days to add, and Deathmatch wasn't added for 154 days, which is a little under half a year. It's little features like these that we all take for granted these days, and would easily be overlooked by a number of players if they hadn't included them straight away. Counter-Strike 2 is also currently missing the workshop, which is a big deal for people who want to make maps for future operations. But in theory, we should be seeing this added soon. The CSGO workshop was added on February 7th, 2013, which was 169 days after launch. I really hope we don't have to wait that long to get back the workshop for Counter-Strike 2, but you never know. Going back to Deathmatch for a second, it's good to see that we still have it in Counter-Strike 2 at launch, but it's a little weird to not have any of the other Wargames modes back. Especially the retakes mode, which helped players to gain confidence in both site holds and retakes alike, but I'll talk about the retakes game mode a little bit more in a little bit. When we compare this to when CSGO launched, we didn't have retakes or scout snipes, but we did have arms race and demolition modes with a handful of maps made specifically for those game modes. These modes probably weren't the most popular in the world, but they were still a lot of fun. I know that I spent a lot of time back in the day playing arms race on chutes and baggage, even if half the lobby was just bots. I wouldn't mind being able to just relax after a long day and do that one more time. Another extremely important thing that doesn't seem to be functioning properly in Counter-Strike 2 is the community server browser. In CSGO, there were obviously thousands of awesome community servers that you could join at any given moment, and technically you still can. And if the server was running a map that you didn't have downloaded, the server would automatically download the map onto your computer, and once that was done, you could play with everyone else. In Counter-Strike 2, the server browser doesn't function properly. Whether intentionally or not, the current server browser is awful. It opens a Steam window rather than a window in-game, and once you manually select that you want servers only for Counter-Strike 2, the servers that show up are of course for CSGO. Even if someone were to give you the IP address to connect to, if you haven't got that map in your maps folder installed, it won't download it automatically anymore, and therefore you can't play. If I had to guess, this functionality will probably be added at the same time as the workshop integration when they've figured out how to actually download things. Going back though to some of those missing game modes, the mode I was most shocked to see gone was the retakes mode. The game modes that they've left in the game seem to be catered to the players who want to play the traditional game modes or train and learn how to play those game modes. Retakes is meant to help you train for full games, but you can't play it, or can you? Well, it turns out that the game mode is actually in the game. They just haven't given you a way to play it from the main menu or set up online servers for you to play it with other people. I'm sure they will add this back in the future, but for now, if you are hosting a server or if you want to play some retakes against bots offline, all you need to do is enter the following into your console: SV_skirmish_ID, and then 12. Hit the semicolon, map, and then type in whatever the hell map you want to play, and it will load you straight onto that map into the game mode. Unfortunately, that is the only way to play one of the war games in Counter-Strike 2. And even if you try and manually run a server offline, none of the other game modes are functional in any capacity. So if you are looking to play Arms Race or Demolition, you're gonna need to get a DeLorean to travel back in time and have fun with your friends again. Finally, I think we need to address the elephant in the room: Danger Zone. Obviously, this wasn't available in CSGO for a very long time, 2,297 days to be exact, but it was still a good, fun game mode to mess around with if you had a friend along for the ride. For the record, I enjoyed Danger Zone. When I could find a match, that is. Being from Australia, there wasn't a big player base. It was, though, the best that they could do with the extreme limitations that the Source engine presented Valve with. Did you ever notice that every Danger Zone map had some sort of tower or high spot in the middle of the map? That was by design to stop the engine from trying to render absolutely everything on the map at the same time, and to keep your frames above 20. With the new engine more than likely able to handle bigger maps, we may never see the return of the old Danger Zone maps, and we may even see a complete overhaul to the game mode. If they did bring back Danger Zone, I really hope we have the potential for higher player counts, bigger maps, and less people overusing bump mines to fly around the map and kill respawning players before they even have the chance to take more than 2 steps. I'm extremely excited for the future of Counter-Strike 2, and the potential that it holds once everything starts moving forward and we see the effort that Valve are putting into it. After that, things will only snowball and get better from there. But what do you guys think? What features or maps do you think that Valve should focus on first to reintroduce to Counter-Strike 2? Let me know in the comments below. I really do read them all. So thank you so much for watching. And until next time, take care.